Did you ever start out looking at a story, thinking one thing, completing the story, and then thinking something else, and then doing more research and finding, well, it's a very deep rabbit hole indeed? I just did that. Now you're going to do it too. Social media, ad tech, video distribution platforms, whatever you want to call the new social media economy, the people that are on top of it are trying to clamp down. And at the same time, they're trying to exploit it. It's a very strange thing right now. I've covered the main aspect of this story, the hub part of this story here before. I had to do it very carefully. I've talked about censorship by various tech platforms also very carefully. See, criticism of any of these entities seems to get you in a whole heck of a lot of trouble with them. And not just with one of them, the one that you actually criticize, but with all of them. That's strange, isn't it? So sometimes I may fall onto the side of something that should be censored. Sometimes I feel like, maybe that should be okay. But that's kind of hypocritical. So I try to avoid doing that at all costs. I think a lot of us do. The only time, or the only exception to this, is when it's the exploitation of the very young, how about just the young? I think that is maybe the time to maybe put your foot down. Not maybe, definitely. And that's kind of this story, because it's bigger than we thought, and it's getting bigger every day. All bets are off when it comes to protecting the youngest among us, and that is 100% paramount importance. This once again brings to light the hub, once again, and its business practices. It also sheds light on a new development, or actually several new developments, in the ongoing nightmare for business entities that are attached to them. So we're going to take a deeper look into this and see what their reactions are, and also some things that we just may not have known about MindGeek as a whole. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go. There's no need to bury the lead here. Instagram has shut down the hub on their platform. This is, of course, hot on the heels of a judge's decision to hold the payment processors accountable for the alleged illegal acts of MindGeek as willing partners in that endeavor. And on, well, basically the same time, Visa and MasterCard, those payment processors, have been removing their services from MindGeek, or they did. You can see that it seems we have a sudden change of heart right now from the social media side of things when it comes to MindGeek as well. This week, I should be calling the entire week Tech Week, because every single story, it seems, that I have found to cover is bad behavior around one of these tech entities in one form or another, or it's somehow tied to tech anyway. And specifically, it seems like it's tied to ad tech platforms. With the action over the weekend by Instagram and their parent company Meta, an account with over 13.1 million followers and more than 6,200 posts, Meta is clearly not wanting to be associated with the hub any longer, despite obviously the fact that maybe it hasn't broken any rules, at least none that we know of, because Meta's not given any official statement in regard to eliminating this account, at least to date or at the time of recording this video. That may change. The account on Instagram did, of course, promote the adult industry and even featured videos about career opportunities in that same industry. The industry itself is worth a huge amount of money. In fact, as of right now, it's worth about $200 billion a year, and it's expected to grow to $300 billion per year by 2030. There are financial numbers here that I will get into beyond that in just a minute, especially when it comes to these lawsuits, but bear with me. Strangely, while doing this video, I have had even more ridiculous stories come up about other ad tech companies investing in this side of the entertainment industry, and I will get to that later this week. Instagram's audience, which is where we're focused, is skewed very young, or younger demographically. I probably should say it that way. So it's possible that Meta is trying to, like, I guess, sidestep a lot of controversy that's tied to the younger people that it appeals to, and is playing it safe. In fact, looking at it from my perspective, I think it's a form of self-preservation, and they really don't want to be tied to this kind of behavior. Instagram and Facebook have some real issues right now that they're going to be dealing with, and that's again going to be another video later this week. I can't believe how many of these are tied to each other. It's insane. Perhaps the most surprising thing here, though, is that at the time of this particular recording, Twitter still has a hub account available. At least on their platform. That doesn't have a lot. I mean, 3.4 million's a lot, but it doesn't have a lot in comparison to what their presence was on Instagram. And you also have a presence on YT here on the Google platforms. That has about 882,000 subscribers to the channel. You don't have to be a subscriber to consume their content, where they share videos that are safe for work, whatever that means. Now, MindGeek is a Canadian-based company, believe it or not, and they've laid off an undisclosed number of employees recently, lost 2 of its key executives and their CEO and CFO, and faced a whole lot more allegations since June, when all of this really started to fall apart. There are over a dozen plaintiffs engaged in this legal action against the hub, and this is just one of very many. There's more we'll get to. Of course, they're not just after the hub, they're after all of these sites that are controlled by MindGeek, and you won't even believe the other stuff that they're involved in. And of course, all of this is based on some alleged exploitation of people that, you know, would have preferred not to have been, or people that were too young to have been. So the response from the company, of course, is what I reported before. It's very aggressive. They're refuting the claims that they don't take their content moderation seriously. Well, there's some things to point to why people could believe that a little bit later in the story, but it's used the current circumstance or situation to highlight the sweeping changes that they've made over the last few years, and more specifically very recently, as far as the safeguards that they've put in place. Those safeguards, actually, some attorneys claim, are not enough, and well, I think a lot of people would agree. What's at stake for MindGeek is significant. There's an $800 million lawsuit that has come around in the last few years, not to mention the ones that they're currently dealing with that we don't even know about, because there's got to be more. We don't learn about them all at once. I don't have time to go crawling through ScribD to go looking. This company gets billions and billions of dollars off of the billions of hits that it gets on its sites every single month. And in case you think any of that is hyperbole, I can assure you it isn't, because in a June 2022 article tied to when a lot of this stuff went down, the New Yorker, of all places, reported that the number of actual impressions per month for these sites is 4.5 billion. Unfortunately, that number is from all the way back in 2020. We don't actually have how many impressions it is now, but that's a lot of hits on your sites every single month. Attorneys claim that people's attempts at going through the reporting process with the MindGeek sites, through their reporting takedown process anyway, usually turns out to be a futile effort. Why? Well, the content just seems to resurface later, maybe with a different title, description, search tags, etc. And as an ad tech platform, there's really little incentive for MindGeek to remove material when it's tied to revenue that's generating from the ads that they provide. At least that's according to attorneys that are engaged in current litigation against the company. And, you know, there's a lot of them, some big ones. MindGeek also benefits financially from subscription fees as part of the sites that they operate. So there's a direct profit motive here that's definitely going to be examined as well, because, you know, they collect money directly from people that subscribe to have access to some of these things. Can't get away from the direct profitability of some of that. In 2021, we'll just use an example here, MindGeek settled a massive lawsuit with 50 women, 4 of them being Canadian, I believe. Those women claim to have been duped into an operation or ring. I can't say the words that are associated with those, but I'm sure you can guess them. The terms of the settlement for that were, of course, kept quite secret. This revolves around a partnership with a particular group that girls do something. All of these things came to light, mind you, around the time or about the same time where MindGeek had to actually part with nearly 80% of its entire content library. That was December of 2020. In total, it was 10.6 million videos. Jeez, oh Pete. Now, take into consideration all that MindGeek is made up of, all right? And realize this, MindGeek is participating and benefiting from questionable material, but they're also involved on the other side of things. They're collecting data and they're tracking people. In fact, right now, or recently, I should say, they were behind the UK legislation to implement this thing called Age ID, also known as the Prawn Pass. Again, changing words. Not only were they involved in crafting said legislation, they actually own Age ID and its services. You know what else they own? VPN Hub. They're collecting an awful lot of information. They're actually tracking people, knowing where they go, amongst a whole lot of other things that I think a lot of people aren't aware of. They have both sides of this business. There's a lot of revelations there and a lot of information, and we should probably stop there. I think you and I have a lot of questions still. Probably something I need to talk about on a live stream at some point, but I don't know how to go about doing that. Maybe I can talk to John F. Trent over at Bounding Into Comics, and maybe this will be something he wants to tackle. But I'm going to ask you the same kinds of questions I always do at the end of a video. What should happen with the folks at MindGeek? Should we rally behind the takedown of their Instagram account? Isn't that a form of censorship? Will Twitter and YouTube, be compelled to cancel them as well? I don't know. I'm interested in your thoughts, so feel free to leave the comments down below, and maybe we'll have a discussion here on this. And maybe we can talk about where I could possibly talk about this subject, because there's a lot more here. There's a lot out there. If you scrub through Scribd, you'll find even more. It's insane. But support other independent creators here, because they're going to cover subjects like this, albeit very carefully, like I just did. They're going to dive into some things that there's going to have to be fancy words used, like allegedly, and maybe some things that maybe the different social platforms aren't going to dig so much and maybe downgrade them for. So your support is more important than ever. Be sure to like, subscribe, be sure to comment and share their content, because it's gonna otherwise be pushed behind all the mainstream stuff that we've been trying to avoid for the last 6 to 10 years, depending, right? And of course, I'm going to tell you to do the same thing that I always suggest that you do. Be sure to take care of yourself. Take care of others. Wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.